Welcome to our Know Before You Go presentation. I'm Naj Alikhan. We're honored to have you spend a few minutes with us as we prepare for our Coast to Coast Federal Advocacy Trip in Washington, D.C. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll quickly go through some of the advocacy issues that you'll be talking to lawmakers about when you go to Capitol Hill. We'll also give you some important information about the speakers and the workshops that you'll be going through at this federal advocacy trip. Two important pieces of information for you. We do have a Coast to Coast app. You'll get a link for that, and you'll be able to download that app. It'll give you a lot of information about the entire event. And of course, if you have any questions, hotel, transportation, the agenda, the Capitol visit, we have a place where you can send an email, coast2coast@csba.org. You can get all of your questions answered. Somebody will respond to you. Let's go ahead and bring in our first two guests right now. Yvonne Carrillo is the Senior Director of Policy and Governmental Relations with ACSA. Patrick O'Donnell is the Chief of Governmental Relations at CSBA. Patrick and Yvonne, it's great to have you here on this Coast to Coast video. Yvonne, we'll start with you. Some details as we move forward towards this trip.
Yeah, first up, I'll just say really excited. This is one of our favorite times of the year, is to be able to be with more than a couple hundred leaders from California, just beating the drum loudly for students back in DC. So we're really looking forward to it, and we're hard at work. And part of what excites us about this is the opportunity to influence the federal policy agenda on behalf of our students. So this really centers around the meetings that take place, and the goal is to meet with every single U.S. Congressional member from California. And so you will be made aware of those meetings through the app. So keep an eye out for that. But what's really important in these meetings is to tell your local context, to talk about how these different policy and budgetary considerations will affect your students and your staff and your communities. So we have a lot of time built into the agenda to do the prep work, to talk through the issues, to make sure you fully understand them, but also to plan with your delegation from your region to make sure that you feel confident going into these meetings. We also are going to be hearing from a number of prominent speakers. One I'm really excited about is the Deputy Secretary of Education, one of our own, Cindy Martin, former superintendent from San Diego Unified. But we really wanted this trip to be about more than just this. We wanted you to have a fuller DC experience. We have a unique opportunity to have a reception in the U.S. Capitol and the congressional dining room there. And there's also on Tuesday, the programming intentionally ends early to just give you and your region an opportunity to just take in everything DC has to offer. So looking forward to seeing you out there.
Thanks, Yvonne, very much. Patrick, this is your first Coast to Coast trip, first federal advocacy trip with CSBA and ACSA. Welcome. What can you tell us is coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm really just going to echo what Yvonne shared, and I am very excited about this trip because, again, this is a great opportunity for us to take about 250 school board members and senior school administrators from the state of California and drop them upon DC so that we can walk the halls of the Capitol and make sure that the voices of the education leaders, such as you in California, are heard and ultimately shape the policy that comes out of Washington, D.C. It's a very important, and you know this as local elected officials, administrators, it's very important for your voices to be heard. And you look at California, quite frankly, our power is in numbers. There's probably no larger delegation that's coming into D.C. On the education front this year than the delegation that's going to arrive April 7th. This is a very important event, and I'm excited about it. I cannot share how excited I am about this event because I'm prepared to be effective and make sure that we shape federal policy just as you are. With us, there's going to be folks from small school districts who have an important voice to be heard in Washington, D.C., medium-sized school districts, and also large school districts. So again, a very important time for us to meet with our legislators, hear from those who have their pulse on DC politics, on where DC is going and how, again, we can best shape policy that comes out of DC, but also to hear from some of the speakers who are up on what's going on in DC. We've got the Capitol reception, as Yvonne shared. So again, I'm just very excited about this event, and I am prepared for us all to really have certainly a great time, but also to be an effective voice for California students in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Patrick, you said it right there. Effective. That's the key word that you said a couple of times there. Effective advocacy. Yvonne and Patrick, thank you both so much for being with us here on this Coast to Coast preview video. Before we head to DC, it's prudent that we talk a little bit about the issues that you'll be advocating on when you go to the Capitol. Erica Hoffman is the Deputy Legislative Director for State and Federal Programs at CSBA, and Diana Vu is an ACSA legislative advocate. Erica and Diana, it's so great to have you here on our Coast to Coast preview video. Diana, we'll start with you. Let's take a look at some of these advocacy issues.
Sure. Thank you, Naj. So this year we have 4 buckets of priorities that we are focusing on. The first is teacher recruitment, retention, and retirement. So under this set of issues, we're going to tackle the educator shortage by advocating for S2417 by Senator Smith, which would create a federal grant program to help provide additional funds to teacher preparation programs in the state, and S968 by Senator Lujan, which would expand the teacher loan forgiveness program to include administrators and early childhood educators as part of the qualifying participants, among a lot of other changes in the bill. So this is huge because there's not enough focus on administrators, and we know that they also struggle with student debt. And with UTK expanding, this could help bring in more TK's teachers. The last set of bills in this bucket, of course, is HR 82 Graves and S597 Brown, which would repeal both the government pension and the offset and the windfall elimination provisions, which after years of advocacy, we are really excited that this is likely to come up for a vote in the House this year. And then the second issue is data privacy and cybersecurity. So in this area, we're asking attendees to advocate for S1409 Blumenthal and S1418 Markey, which would further protect student data while also working within California's current privacy laws. So this is really important because California has strong privacy laws, stronger than most any other state, and we will not want them eroded. The last bill is HR 2845 by Representative Matsui. So this bill would address school cybersecurity concerns by establishing resources and a program to help address cybersecurity in elementary and secondary schools through the Federal Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. And as Patrick and Yvonne had said earlier, I think the most important thing our attendees really need to know is to tell their stories, because that's what legislators want to know. They want to know what's happening in their communities.
Yeah, storytelling so important. Diana, thanks. Erica, a couple of other issues we need to be talking about.
Yeah, we've got a couple more, and one of them is we'll just go on with this whole cyber online issue, but it's the maintenance and expansion of broadband. E-rate funding needs to be expanded. Schools need to be able to use the funding in order to reach out further into their communities. One of the large issues that are facing a lot of districts, and actually a lot of our students these days, is basically the ending of the affordable connectivity program. This is a program that provides low-cost access, about $30 a month for most families, to access the internet so that students can use the internet to fully increase their education. So we're going to be looking at asking Congress for an expansion of the affordable connectivity program, and then also to further support the E-rate program so that schools can provide those services to students. One of the issues, and this predominantly affects most of our smaller school districts, a lot of them that run, across the north, down the eastern side of the state, that are impacted by federal forest land. Yes, it is that time again. The Secure Rural Schools Act is up for reauthorization. So that is one bill that we are going to be pushing strongly and asking all of our members, whether you're from an impacted district or even from our larger urban and suburban districts, to support S2581. This is a measure that for our smaller districts, for our federally impacted districts, as far as forest land. This provides the funding they need in order to continue that equitable program for students, the education program, and also to provide transportation. For many of these students, it's 150 miles round trip to get to school and back every day. So this is a very important program. And then finally, what we're looking at, once again, because of the impact that special education has on all of the programs and all of our students in school districts. As you know, it's been almost 50 years, if you can believe that, since IDEA was signed into law. The promise made under IDEA was 40% funding, or at least 40% of the actual cost, per pupil cost for students. They've yet to ever live up to that in Congress. So once again, we are pushing legislation to establish that glide path. Representative Huffman, who's out of the Bay Area here in California, is the author of HR 4519. And then there is a companion bill over in the Senate by Senator Chris Van Hollen, S 2217. And then finally, the last bill that we are asking you to provide support on and to push members of Congress to become a co-author on is HR 5141. And this is the bill that would provide the increase in funding for the 0 to 5, so the preschool and the infant and toddler program. With all of these measures, hopefully we might be able to get a small increase in special education funding and to at least establish that glide path, which, as we all have known, that is what needs to be done in order to ensure that these students receive the education they need.
All right, Erica and Diana, thanks so much for your insight on those key issues. A quick reminder, you'll get an app, you'll get an email actually with a link to the Coast to Coast app. Go ahead and download that. That'll tell you a lot more about the conference. And then, of course, if you have any questions, hotel, transportation, what is happening at the conference, places to go, people to see, go ahead and send an email, coast2coast@csba.org. And we look forward to seeing you in our nation's capital. Thanks for watching.